Source code speaking. Listen carefully. Imagine this. A Tuesday morning, an ordinary day, or at least, that's what you think. You wake up, make your coffee. Everything moves on routine. No warning signs, no signals. Until you check your phone. A notification appears. An automatic payment just went through. $412, gone, in a second. You haven't even taken your first sip of coffee, but the math is already running in your head. Rent, car payment, groceries. That emergency bill from February still unpaid. And now another deduction. It's not panic, it's something quieter. A silent tightening right in your chest. A cold calculation unfolding in your mind before you even realize it. And here's what you need to understand. 82% of US households are about to experience that exact moment, but with one difference. Next time it won't be a $400 bill. It will be the realization that the so-called financial safety net was never really there. Take a moment and slow down. March 2025. The data doesn't lie. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, combined with research from the Pew Research Center, over 82% of US households do not have enough savings to survive 3 months of unexpected expenses without taking on debt, cutting essential needs, or delaying current obligations. Read that again. Not a recession, not a crisis, not a black swan. Just 3 months of real life. No support, no bailouts, no way out. And this is where people get it wrong. They think it's rare. An accident, something that might happen. No, this is the pattern. A system, slow, silent, repeating. It has happened in other countries, in other decades. And now, it's happening right in front of you, not somewhere far away, but in your country, in your life. And the timeline is closer than you think. Follow me to the end of this video. Because by the time we finish, you'll understand exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and more importantly, what you need to do before September. We begin now. But before I show you the evidence, the history, and what's unfolding right now, I need to give you something else. A framework. Because once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. You'll start recognizing it. Everywhere. I call it the silent drain system. It's not loud. It doesn't create panic. It doesn't show up in headlines. It operates in 4 stages, and here's the most dangerous part. Each stage feels completely normal while it's happening. No warnings, no red flags, just a process, quietly taking away what once protected you. And that's where it all begins. Not with a crisis, not with a shock, but with a slow erosion, almost invisible, of the foundation you once believed was safe. Imagine you're on a boat. The life jacket is there. It fits. It once kept you safe. But every year, without anyone telling you, a little bit of air is taken out. Not enough to cause panic. Just enough that over time, what once saved you becomes nothing more than the illusion of safety. That's how the financial system works. Wages rise, but slower than inflation. Benefits don't disappear. They get restructured. Deductibles quietly increase. From 2019 to 2024, out-of-pocket costs before insurance coverage rose from $1,600 to $2,800, a 75% increase. No headlines, no warnings. And as the safety net thins, people do the rational thing. They rely on it more. They stop protecting themselves. Savings decline. Buffers disappear. They hand their emergency fund over to the system and call it a plan. But the gap keeps widening. In 2000, 62% of workers had pensions. By 2024, just 15%. Then a disruption hits. Not a sudden shock, a sustained pressure. Like a chess game, you think you're fine, until you realize you lost 10 moves ago. This is how the safety net disappears. Not when it collapses, but when you reach for it, and it's no longer there. In 1996, Bill Clinton signed welfare reform. The official story: modernization, greater efficiency, encouraging self-reliance. But that's not what actually happened. Before 1996, the system carried an implicit promise. If more people needed help, funding would rise with demand. After 1996, states received fixed block grants. Need increased, but support did not. Risk was shifted. not eliminated, shifted from the system onto individual families. By 2002, the number of poor families receiving cash assistance dropped by 60%, not because poverty disappeared, but because the rules changed, and then 2008 arrived. The system, already thinned out, could no longer absorb the pressure. Millions reached out, and there was nothing there. Now look at the United Kingdom. In 2010, under David Cameron, the government introduced austerity and the universal credit system. 6 programs merged into one. On paper, it looked efficient. But in reality, people waited 5 to 6 weeks with no income. They borrowed, they turned to food banks. Support centers grew from 60 to over 2,000. The Trussell Trust recorded a 62% surge in demand in areas where the new system was implemented. This isn't laziness. This is delay engineered into the system, and when a crisis hits, time is the one thing you don't have. They are not failures. They are working people, contributing, following the rules, and then one small disruption, a medical bill, a job loss, a breakup, and they discover the system responds with a 5-week delay. 5 weeks when rent is due in 2. This isn't personal failure. This is design. Now look at Japan. In the 1980s, absolute stability. Lifetime employment. Corporations as the safety net. But after the 1990 collapse, everything changed quietly. Companies didn't mass layoff, they stopped hiring stable workers. From 1990 to 2003, non-regular employment doubled, from under 15% to nearly 30%. The safety net didn't disappear, it disappeared for the next generation. By 2002, the term working poor emerged. A generation kept believing in the old system until they realized it no longer existed. Sound familiar? Now look at the United States. The personal savings rate from 33% in 2020 to 2.9% in 2025. Less than 3 cents per dollar, 42 million people rely on SNAP, while proposals to cut $230 billion are being discussed. This isn't a warning. This is evidence. The system isn't about to drain. It already has. 42 million people are receiving food assistance while the largest proposed cuts in history are being discussed. That's not a coincidence. That's 2 phases colliding. And here's what the media doesn't say. The issue isn't just debt, credit cards, or interest rates. The issue is this: you are depending on a system that is becoming quietly less reliable. Nearly half of Americans under 65 get insurance through their jobs. That sounds stable. But over the past 15 years, deductibles have risen, networks have narrowed, premiums have climbed. You think you're protected, but in reality you're covered far less than you believe. The clearest evidence? Medical debt, the #1 cause of personal bankruptcy. Not tuition, not housing, medical costs from a system you thought was shielding you. Now look at the trigger chain. Student loan payments return, 10 million people face wage garnishment. Medicaid rolls shrink, 22 million people lose coverage. Credit card interest rates around 21%, and 40% of adults cannot handle a $400 expense. This isn't the weakest group. This is the entire system. The decline doesn't arrive with an announcement. It arrives when every pressure point hits at once. You're being told the economy is stable, GDP is rising, markets are strong, and on paper that's true. But that's an average of 2 completely different realities. The top 20%, they've recovered. Assets are up. Savings are intact. They don't feel the pressure. The remaining 80%, a completely different story. The programs they rely on are being cut, delayed, and restructured all at once. And here's the critical point. This is not a prediction of collapse. This is an erosion already in progress. 40% of Americans cannot handle a $400 expense. They're not waiting for a crisis. They're already in one. You say, the government will step in. Maybe. But history shows, intervention always comes late, 6 to 18 months. And for households, that's too late. You say, I'm fine, I have insurance, I have savings. The real question is, have you checked? Do you know exactly what your insurance covers? How long can you survive if your income stops? Are the programs you rely on still what they were 2 years ago? Most people are operating on an outdated map, and by the time they realize it, it's already too late. This is the pattern. The The system erodes while personal reserves hit the floor. This isn't coming. It's happening. This is no longer theory. This is action. First, separate cash flow from emergencies. If you don't even have $400 set aside, the goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress. Have more than you did yesterday in a place that's hard to spend. Second, don't rely on a single safety net. History has already shown, from 1996 to the United Kingdom to Japan, every single point system eventually fails. Build a second layer, a community credit line, a family arrangement, a side income, a professional support fund. Not a replacement, an addition. When one layer breaks, another holds you. Third, track policy. From now to September, SNAP, Medicaid, interest rates, student loans, everything is shifting. You don't need to be an expert, you just need to not be caught off guard. Fourth, face reality. Not 5 years ago, not hope, now. The people who are stable by September are the ones who checked early. Part 2, next week. 3 sectors at risk of job disruption before 2025. Don't miss it. And remember this, the time to fix the roof is while the sun is still shining.